I'd like to welcome you to Transformation and Transcendence Roundtable podcast. We're going to discuss things spiritual, psychological, mystical. We're going to combine psychotherapy and psychological concepts since have all been trained as therapists, but all walk a spiritual path. We're going to combine all these elements and help with inspiration and guidance and coaching and support for each of you's spiritual growth. That's the intention. So we'll rely on case material. We'll rely on ancient wisdom as well as psychological awareness, depth psychology, Jungian psychology, Bionian psychology, different kinds of depth psychology that can be of help to you. So thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the journey, and we hope to be of service to you and help you in your growth. That's our mission. So thank you, and here we go. So welcome to Transformation and Transcendence Roundtable podcast. I'm Dr. Franklin Solers, a therapist, psychologist, also a spiritual aspirant, been studying and working a spiritual path for many, many years. And with me I have, here's Ben Carpenter, Bennett Carpenter. How you doing, Ben?
So far, so good, Dr. Solers. Yep, can't complain too much. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, Leah, how are you? Leah Dickinson, how are you?
I'm doing good. Just a nice, cold, somewhat sunny, clear sky out here today. How about you, Dr. Solers?
I'm doing well. It is a nice day. I was out a little bit. I got a chance to work out at the gym, which I always like. And then, you feel spent, so you feel relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a case conference and a round table, which I'm excited about, and a few clients. I think that will be my work day. And Joshua Morrow, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. It's springtime, and I feel like I'm coming alive with the spring as well. It's like the hibernation phase feels over.
Okay, yeah, coming out of the winter, huh? And your camera's a little fuzzy, Joshua. I don't know if we can fix that or not, but
sorry, I don't know.
Maybe
doesn't look fuzzy to me.
Yeah, maybe you got to be fuzzy. That's okay. If it needs to.
All right.
Technology being what it is, we just roll with it. And Farid Elazabah is usually with us. He's not here at the moment. I expect he may come, but sometimes people get, we're all, working with people, and sometimes there are crises or issues that arise, and so he may join us later or possibly not, but hopefully he will. Okay, so and Farid is a therapist and a life coach as well. So what are you guys thinking today? Any material that's perplexing with clients or things that come up?
I have themes that run through my clients per week, and I'm trying to think of the theme that's come up this week.
So like a weekly composite or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a couple weeks ago, like numerous clients of mine were like really concerned with weight loss. And so I was like, why? Out of nowhere, now all these different clients are like sharing about this. And it's not, sometimes it's psychological. And I'm trying to think about, I noticed one this week. I'd have to look at my notes.
Okay, well,
yeah, I don't know. I don't remember actually.
Maybe we can come back around to you as you think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was I also have a lot of themes that come up too, kind of like what Josh, you were just saying. Is it cool if I call you Josh instead of Joshua? I want to.
Yeah, totally cool. It's whatever.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like some weeks for me, it's like attachment theory. It'll be fully focused on, all right, like, hey, let's quiz and check out and see, what's your attachment style like? And, let's have a better understanding of how you interact in relationships. Or like, I've been noticing one theme that's been happening lately is I've been doing literally like the abuse wheel. So like looking specifically at like types of abusive experiences and like how it impacts people, like economically, emotionally, and all of that. So it's so hard. Also, confusion is a theme too. It's a big theme I notice with clients is I don't know what decision to make, like almost decision paralysis.
I get a lot of, how do I interact with this person? I don't understand this person. I get that one a lot too.
Yep. Especially in relationships. I get a lot of like clients who are struggling in their like romantic relationships with like communication. And like I'll be seeing them individually, and a lot of the focus tends to be on, not seeing eye to eye on something, or I feel at times disrespected, or my partner just doesn't understand like what I'm trying to communicate, or I want my partner to do what I want them to do. And that's also a difficult one to work with too, because people can't do exactly what you want them to do.
Right. And, sometimes what the client who's wanting the change in their partner, what they need to do is understand that they have to deal with their own frustration tolerance. Sometimes, they feel like they can only be happy if this person does that, and this person changes that, and this person acts this way. And a lot of times what we need is more resilience and the ability to be flexible, right? Cognitive flexibility, which we discussed a couple weeks ago. I mean, sometimes we can ask for what we need, but asking for what we need in a relationship, in a free sense, asking and explaining what we would like is different than expecting and punishing or criticizing someone or stonewalling, whatever it might be, as a way to force them into compliance. And sometimes people think, well, that's okay to do these sorts of things. What else am I supposed to do? Well, really, you're supposed to explain your needs in a relationship from a vulnerable position. This is what I would like. If I don't get it, I feel, some kind of, I feel a little left, I feel sad, I feel hurt. But you don't even want to over exaggerate any of those feelings so that they become like guilt trips, in relationships. Really, what you want ultimately is to let the person be free, right? And if they come to you after you express your needs, they do. If not, sometimes we just have to be at peace enough with ourselves where we don't feel, you got to act this way for me to be happy. That's a trap. That's an externalization trap where we got to have the person, change all the time. And then you get in a vicious circle. You get mad, you get punishing, they get mad at you, and you have a negative cycle in any kind of relationship, job, romance, friendships, doesn't matter, children, right? Now having a boundary with a child is different than, immediately going to scolding or criticizing or whatever, punishing ways too, right? Sometimes we have to have boundaries, but that's different than punishing, criticizing, that kind of thing. So this is really, I think, an important aspect for people. Now, if you've put somebody a long time, and they really, you're trying to do your best, and they really don't want to engage with you, I mean, over a period of time, you're trying to be close, and they really don't want to be close to you, well, then maybe, I'm not saying this to be punitive or rejected, maybe you need a different relationship, or you have to look at yourself and ask yourself, what can I do perhaps to engage the person so perhaps they want to be more close to me or more friendly to me or meet this need for whatever it might be, like kindness or companionship or something. What can I do? Where can I meet the person kind of in the middle or give them something? Sometimes we're so focused on what we should get and want to get and don't get, or we lose track of what we're giving or not giving, right? So there's I forgot who's the the wise person who said this, but don't try to get somebody to love you, make somebody love you, find that person and make them. Try to be the person you want to love. Try to be that person, right? Try to emulate and be all those traits and that kind of thing. And then the person will, by a law of attraction and affinity, start to want to come to you, unless you're doing some tricky things that you don't know about, which is what coaching and therapy too can help a client with, right? Because sometimes we're doing things we're not aware of, right? We think we're all cool, and what we might be, stonewalling, we might be judging, we might be doing things that we're not quite aware of that are putting the other person off, and reflection, self-examination, and people to help us can really help with that.
And I would add, Dr. Sollers, noticing how you're playing those patterns out with the therapist. Because I feel like sometimes it's not just reflection, but just being aware of what you're bringing to the therapeutic relationship or the relationship with the coach. And then that's when you can start to sort of pick up on certain dynamics that you have also been playing out with other people. It's just that in the therapy or coaching space, you have the advantage of having an interlocutor who's trained and skilled in picking up on those things and then can gently give them back to you, as opposed to your typical relationships. It's gonna, it might interfere, or, there's not usually that same space for reflection and feedback. So I think that's a lot of what people benefit from therapy or coaching in terms of their relationships is they enter into this professional relationship with someone who is trained and motivated to point out to you some of the relational patterns that you play out with them to your benefit, so that you can take those insights then and improve your other relationships.
Yeah, and the coach, in most cases, right, is really mostly invested. I mean, they're highly invested in your growth. So it's not about them winning an argument or that kind of thing, or prevailing in it. It's really the engagement, the relational engagement is for the client's benefit, is to help them with their emotional growth. So that's really first and foremost. And so hopefully the client can trust that when there's an issue that arises, that the coach will help them as best they can, maybe see their own part even sometimes, but also help the client see what's going on in them that they can perhaps change. So you're right, the relationship is a very rich field with the coach, right? Very rich field to use to help in spiritual and emotional growth. And by the way, this is Fareed, who was just talking. Fareed Al-Asba, I said, would hopefully be coming on. That was Fareed, who was just talking. Hi, Fareed. Yeah, I'm trying to get people so used to our voices so that if they're just listening, they'll know who we are as we talk.
And speaking of voices, somebody has some kind of feedback. So just
That would be me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like a duck talking back here.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. This is Ben here. I wanted to what you're talking about, Dr. Sollers, is so huge. And I mean, I think one of the things for me that's sort of counterintuitive about it all, like in relationships, is it just seems like if a person if I want to be closer to someone, it seems like just the default mode is you move towards that person. And, and to some extent, of course, we do that. But part of, I guess, my just filtering through some of what you're saying is, I mean, there's another dynamic, which is, it's almost like it's not necessarily moving away. I guess it could be. In some cases, it could be moving away from another person, but mostly it's just a sense of, oh, it looks like we lost Joshua there for a second, but the sense of, I don't know, it's sort of like this kind of sounds crude in a way, but just sort of like minding my own business. Like if I'm minding my own business, not in this cold, heartless way, but I mean like in a serious, authentic way of I have things I need to attend to for myself, not just like in the business of my life, but the in my emotions and my thoughts and my actions and so on, that somehow like if I am attending to that, then as you said, that becomes attractive. And then potentially there's in a relationship with a significant other, something like that, or very important relationships. It could be family members, it could be friends as well, could be even, I don't know, in business partnerships and things like that. But this idea that I guess where I'm going with this is, it just seems like my default mode is like if you want to have a good close relationship, then you move close like that, you know. But there's an element there of sort of this taking care of one's own business, and in that sense, then there's sort of this gravitational pull, and if the other person is also taking care of their business, then there's more of an opportunity for, well, not so much enmeshment, not so much kind of just sort of a pure merging into one. There's also a sense of being distinct people who care and share about the same things, but also have significant differences, and yet can integrate those things into a significant relationship. Well, I'm kind of rambling around there, but I'm taken by the sort of counterintuitive element as sort of like of stepping back and taking one's own business actually can bring people closer together. I guess that's what I'm picking up there.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. I guess I was just noticing it as this difference between interdependence and codependence. And
Yes.
you have to be able to take care of your own business. And my issue is that there's so much business to take care of that I don't have time for relationships, you know?
Maybe it's not time
Yeah,
in your life.
yeah.
Right now, so, yeah. But I think what you're kind of getting at is a separate. If we're separate and strong individuals, we can surrender, right? We can surrender for intimacy. We can give over. If we're dependent and we're needy and we're trying to prove something all the time, and, you know, we're demanding. I don't. Even it may look close, but it doesn't. It doesn't really express to the other person our love for them, our generosity towards them, you know, our enjoyment of them. It's really, what are you doing for us? Is kind of the attitude. What are you doing for me? But you wanted to say something too. You want to jump in too?
yeah. I mean, it's all kind of in the same ballpark here. I'm thinking of the element of control. And I talk a lot of times with clients about this of, you know, you have your circle of control, like, and there's a lot of areas of your life that you don't have control of, but some of the areas that you do have control of is like how you react and respond to things, and, you know, the way in which you talk to others. And, you know, when I do work with clients who are having relationship issues, this is a big dynamic I see, is there's the distortional thought that if I just can get my partner to do what I want, that control element, then everything can be fixed. And I think the big piece that we're missing, which is what you all just communicated, is that looking at what it is that you're bringing to the table. And if you're bringing something that is yucky and not loving or friendly, then how can you expect that your partner is going to want to entertain that? And I think that's really hard for people to look at, is their yucky side of things. Most of us utilize that, right? It's our little shadow self over here having a little party. And our defense mechanisms go up and go, ugh, I don't like that I do that, and I don't even want to admit it to myself. But like, if you don't admit it to yourself, then nothing changes. And you continue to play out this, everybody has to do things for me to change in order to make my life comfortable. When actually, you have an opportunity to make your life comfortable by doing completely the opposite of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. There, yeah, and I think partly for me, there's a lot of hope and empowerment in that, because like there's sort of the first part of that sounds in a way kind of terrible. Like, wait a minute, it's not the other person. Like, wait a minute, I can't blame it on the other person. I can't blame it on the world, the society, etc. And that's not to say that, I mean, in every given situation, we can look at all these different factors of how the other person might be contributing, society might be contributing, the world, etc. But then getting back over to what you're saying, Leah, I mean, for at least speaking for myself, if I sort of turn past that some sort of corner of like, wait a minute, if I get over this, maybe like a little bit, I think of like being like a 2-year-old, like having like a temper tantrum, like, wait a minute, like, it's all this stuff is happening to me or what have you. But then turning the corner, and it's sort of the bad news is like, oh, it's up to you. It's like, oh, no, I don't want it to be up to me. But then it sort of flips to, wait a minute, that means I have power now. That means there's hope. I can actually do something. And so then I think it becomes, what you're talking about becomes very empowering, because it's like, oh, I'm in the driver's seat of my own life, and I can do things right now. And this is, yeah, really empowering.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that together, because this is a hopeful thing. Because empowerment is, I think oftentimes some of us, due to environment or due to relationships or attachments, have had, moments where we haven't maybe felt like we had power. And I know that even within like even, gender related, sexuality related, even religiously related, even class related. I mean, I could go on. And I do want to make sure that, for anyone that is listening, this was not in reference to any form of abuse of a relationship that you're enduring, because that is not
Absolutely.
what, yeah, because that is not what is being reflected or discussed here. This is in regards to just a relationship where there might be some communication issues.
100%.
With that, like one of the things that I feel like I've noticed is that majority of people don't like being alone. And so that, like, the loneliness is not solitude. And I feel like that journey from taking the loneliness, which is inevitable, and shifting it into solitude and finding a way to use that time and have that time be like serving you to build up your power and to build up your taking care of your own business is necessary. But so many people, they have that yucky side, they don't look at it, and then they find someone else with a yucky side similar to that, and then they get together. And so then, or like gosh, or it's like I have a number of clients, and myself included, it's just like one of them's a lonely girl. She's just an only child. And so she just has to deal with loneliness more than other people. And she doesn't know how to do that exactly. And and then the COVID stuff that's happened with the lockdowns, and everyone's sort of like separated, and the social network and the fabric is different these days. And so it's like people are like, I don't know how to make friends anymore. I don't know what to do, how to go. And I'm so busy, I don't have time. And then family relationships, all this stuff. And it's like, at least in my experience, it's been, I have to go deeper into the layers of my loneliness and accept more and more loneliness until I can feel like I can actually be myself with these people. I can actually be present, and I can actually Just be okay with the fact that maybe I'm going to be alone later. Probably, you know? I don't know. Sorry, I went off a little bit there.
Well, if you can't be alone, it's hard to be with somebody. If you can't tolerate aloneness, yeah. Now, if you're using that as a defense and you're always alone because you're afraid to move out and be with somebody, that's something else to look at too. But there is both. I mean, if you can be alone with yourself and feel okay, it's easier to be with somebody because you don't have to gather them in all the time. You don't have to make them do something the way you want them. You can mind your own business, as Ben was saying, right? You can mind your own business more. You can be a free person that is engaging, right? But you don't have this urgent desire to get something from them all the time. I don't mean the urgent, passionate desire to be close. I don't mean that, but like having to have your way, having to have things go for you, and having them do what you're bidding, and that those kind of control issues I'm really kind of addressing. And if you can be alone, you don't have to get into that so much. Yeah. Go ahead, Neil.
Sorry.
You got to there. Go ahead.
You made me think of something immediately, and my brain was just like, "Oh gosh, I'm gonna sound the alarm." What also comes to mind when you say that is, oftentimes when we're looking for our partner to do something for us, I've been learning this actually in my own marriage myself, is sometimes just do the thing you're asking your partner to do. And guess what? There's no argument. Like, for instance, if your partner is, you want your partner to like take care of the dishes, or you want them to take care of something that's like really vital. You can get really caught up in the stonewalling. We can get really caught up in, just walking around huffing and puffing passive aggressively and just frustrated. Or you could go up and actually get an attitude and be like, I've been waiting for you to do the dishes for like 5 days or whatever. It's like, okay, but at the end of the day, we have an opportunity, even if we don't like to, even if you do it, you can just have a gentle conversation and say, hey, I took care of the dishes for you, so you don't have to worry about it. But I think that's also difficult for a lot of us, because that's a lot of couples don't like to compromise. People like to win. So, and I see this a lot of times with again, clients I work with, is either like both parties are going to be doing this head to toe, and neither one, well, the one I'm working with, has a hard time kind of releasing that and saying, okay, I'll make a compromise. I'll try to maybe be less argumentative or less frustrated about, where things are at right now, and just be the bigger person.
But I will say, Leah, another thing that makes it difficult is not only the fact that, yes, many people don't want to compromise, but in my experience working with couples, those kinds of conflicts, like, for example, doing the dishes or other kinds of errands around the house, the best way I can describe it is the content battleground for process issues. And for listeners that aren't familiar with that distinction, content is just the face of what's being said, the words that are being used, the topics that ostensibly a conversation is about. And process is the underlying factors and motivations and relational dynamics that are influencing what's being said. So yes, from a purely rational perspective, we can say this partner who is complaining about the dishes, from a purely rational, maybe we can even say game theory perspective, if they compromise once in a while and do it as a nice gesture, they're going to get what they want. The problem is, we could say, and I think we should take this seriously, we could say they don't really want the dishes to be done. They want to be heard. They want to feel like the other partner is responding to them. They want maybe more control. Whatever the particular idiosyncratic factors are for that person, all of those process-related themes I think get wrapped up in the dishes, you see? And I think this actually explains why, on the face of it, you're right. We have clients that have these conflicts where it's like, well, yeah, but have you tried doing the dishes? Like, have you tried just doing this or compromising? And I think really the answer is that, again, the content, the dishes are the battleground of the process dynamics. And so in couples therapy, what I often find myself doing is, sure, we do the problem solving, the strategizing, the more concrete stuff, but then we also kind of go down into the process and be like, okay, we're saying the word dishes, but what are we really meaning when we say that? And I think that's where you can start to unravel some of the deeper issues. But definitely in relationships and couples, which seems to be the theme that we've touched on today, there is this distinction between content and process, and you always have to listen in a deep way to what the two partners are really talking about or really communicating about when they discuss something that's ostensibly just on that first layer.
Sometimes the dishes are not just the dishes.
Right.
And then other times, no, the dishes are the dishes. Okay, I just need to do them. Like, I wish it was something else, but
Yes. Yeah.
An example of that, I'm with one of my couples clients. They were going back and forth, and the man was mad that she forgot his favorite ramen noodle flavor, and he had just said it the day before or something. But that's what I did. Anytime that couple are fighting, I'm like, all right, there's the content, but the process is probably much more like rich with information. So I'm like, all right, step back, because I also want him to step back from the fighting. And he didn't feel like his needs were being addressed in this situation, in the relationship. He was like, I don't think that she cares about my needs. But he's also taking it from my frame. Like, in my mind, if someone cares about me, it's, if I care about someone, I pay attention to what they like and what they don't like. And so if someone doesn't do that back for me, that means that they don't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of like the rules that are going. But her way of caring about him was different than the way he cares about people. But he wasn't able to see that in this emotionally charged state. And
sounds like the love languages kind of thing. You know, there's different ways we have of communicating love, affection, care, you know, and somebody may think, well, you know, I don't, that there's a certain ramen noodle somebody likes, really, it wouldn't mean anything to me. Maybe somebody else it means something to, but perhaps making noodles would mean something to someone else, or buying them a gift, or expressing affection instead of making the noodles. There's different ways that people, the different things that people feel are important. And I guess one of the things we can do as part of a relationship, not just in couples, but in any kind of friendship or any place that you have a close relationship, is try to listen to see what the person is communicating as their way, important elements that they want to be related to, right? Be heard, be given to, presence, affection, other kinds of things, closeness, time, whatever it might be, which may be get at a little bit of the process kind of phenomenon that Fareed was talking about. It's not just the ramen noodle. What does it mean? You know, am I being heard? Am I being given to? What other ways can it be expressed that the person could feel gratified? That kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
rather than explicitly the issue at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something else that I kind of think about here too is imagine having two couples that both want to be heard. And so then I see another dynamic going of like competition of feeling heard. Because yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with everything, you know, content, process can look a little bit different. But yeah, when you find yourself with two people that want the same thing, it's trying to figure that then out. Okay, well, how do we both get what we want? Like, how do we take turns? How do we begin to listen to each other, begin to assess each other's needs in a different way, right? And like, even like love languages too, like figuring out, you know, okay, so partner really appreciates it when you consider them and, you know, do deeds of service or acts of service. Or maybe the other person really appreciates like words of affirmation and just being able to like, you know, provide that, or sandwich things before providing a touch of criticism.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the reason why having an intimate relationship is often considered a milestone in someone's personal development and growth is because it does require a lot of skills that traditional psychology associates with mature ego functions. And one of those is exactly what you're talking about, Leah, of considering what the other person perceives as important and what the other person will respond to. And exactly as Josh said, we usually have a working model of what the other person is experiencing based on our own experience. And if we get caught in that working model, then not only will we not be able to respond to them in the ways they need to, but we will be perpetually baffled by their actions because we think to ourselves, I would never do that. The only time I would do that is if I hated someone. So gosh, this person must hate me then. So there is something about being in a sustained relationship where a lot of people say that's their goal. And I think besides just the fact that it's nice to love and be loved, it also does represent, I think, a kind of a milestone. Like, okay, you're able to enter into this sustained relationship. You're able to do the kind of, let's call them the mature ego functions that are necessary to be in this kind of relationship, all of which I think we've been talking about today.
Very good. Relinquish, negotiate, surrender, have patience, give as much as we want to get, understand, like develop an understanding through our own patience and our attunement to our partners. These are capacities that really are essential in relationship, and frustration tolerance, which we've talked about today too.
Yeah, I feel like we can layer in like I feel like things have gotten lonelier since I was younger with the increase of our technology at times and with the COVID things that have happened. And we build those mental models of how other people operate by interactions with people. But if we're collectively having less experiences interacting with other people, especially face to face, we're gonna have a harder time building those mental models. And kind of one of the reasons why I think psychology is even more important than it has been in the past is because we're the ones who learned this stuff so that we can help people understand it better. And so for when you're sharing, like, these people don't have these mature ego functions, it takes repetitions, it takes practice, it takes failures of interacting with people and then not having it go very well. And those can be also injuring too. And so we have to, there's just a lot going on. And it comes to my mind what we've been talking about. I have some of my clients that vulnerability is a really hard thing. And I think that the capacity to be vulnerable can really help with this. But the level of anxiety that some of my clients have, even coming in with the mindset that they want to be vulnerable, it just makes it unable for them to be. And I don't know what to do about that. I don't know, time and effort.
Well, people think if they express their needs in a vulnerable way, that makes them vulnerable to being controlled or dominated. It doesn't have to, It really doesn't have to. Now, you may feel hurt or sadness if somebody doesn't respond, but that's different. And you don't have to ingratiate yourself or make yourself a doormat to get what you want. That's like not minding your own business, to go back to Ben. People can be who they want, but if you express your needs in a vulnerable way, it's the best way to get where you want to go without demand, and without punishment if they don't answer, right? It makes me think of the Gestalt prayer. You guys remember the Gestalt prayer? You are you and I am I. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, nor you to mine. But if by chance we find each other, that would be beautiful. I think that's about minding your own business, but trying at the same time. Go ahead, Fareed.
The last part, as you said, Dr. Sellers, if we find each other, that's beautiful. And if not, it can't be helped. And I think that's the relinquishing.
Yeah, and it's right. Relinquishing the forcing, the demand, the control, right? Mm-hmm. And you can offer yourself and you can ask. It's different than forcing, demanding, controlling, punishing. Yeah.
And I think really it's quite symbolic that Gestalt therapy, which of course is about actualizing our potentials and helping us in a deep way, that the Gestalt prayer would end with the phrase, it can't be helped. I think the number one step in helping yourself is recognizing the things that can't be helped, relinquishing them, coming to accept them, and then on that firm foundation, that's when you can start to actually do the things that will help you.
Taking life on life's terms. Yes, you're right. You're very right. You're very right.
Mm.
Okay, so I guess we're going to have to stop. We're out of time. But thank you, everybody. You know, we could go on, couldn't we? I mean, it's very rich. But maybe next week we'll go on with it, or we'll find, you know, we seem to find a new adventure in our discussions each time. So thanks, everybody. If you want to get
Thank
a hold
you.
of us, yeah, it's TNT Roundtable Podcast at gmail.com, or you can Google TNT Transformation and Transcendence Roundtable Podcast, and you'll find us. And so thanks, everybody, again, and see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for being part of our Transformation and Transcendence Roundtable Podcast. We'll be having this podcast every Thursday at 12 noon, but then it will be uploaded where you could be able to find it on any podcast platform that you have, Apple, Spotify, etc. And it should be will be on YouTube as well. So thanks for joining us, and we hope it's been helpful in your spiritual and emotional growth, and that you've gleaned a little bit of blessing and insight and inspiration for your growth as you go forward. May it blossom throughout your day. Okay, thanks again. See you next time.